Well, to get some inspiration about this, let's talk about what humans do and visual object categories in humans. And there was work in what's referred to as basic level categories in human categorization. It was started by Rosch, a series of seminal papers back in the 70s, continued on by Lakoff and other cognitive scientists. And what they found is there are certain levels of description that seem to have a preferred place in human cognition. So for example, the basic level was the highest level in the category, which you could say that objects have the same or similar perceived shape. So if I ask you to think of the shape of a German Shepherd, you can, but if I ask you to think of the shape of a dog, you probably can do that too. If I ask you to think of the shape of a mammal, what you're going to do is you're going to think of the shape of a couple of representative types of mammals. You don't actually have a shape for mammal. Typically also you can make a mental image. If I say, make a mental image of a dog, you'll probably come up with something. If I say make a mental image of an animal, you're going to pick some animal, and then if I were to ask you what it was, you wouldn't tell me it's an animal, you would tell me it was a deer or something like that. By the way, you can do reaction time experiments where, let's suppose you want to ask people to push a button, yes or no. I'm going to show them a picture, and one task is you're supposed to say, is it an animal? Another task is you're supposed to say whether it's a dog. It turns out you're faster at knowing that it's a dog than you are at knowing that it's an animal. And that's a very robust finding, and you can do that. And then there's this thing that typically this is the level of children understand earlier. So they'll learn about dogs before they'll learn about animals. They'll learn these words. And there's one written here about having motor actions interact. You can imagine that there's a set of things you do with dogs that sort of span dogs, right? There's probably not the same set of things you do with animals, right? You probably pet dogs. You're probably willing to pet most dogs, probably all dogs generically if you're a dog person. The idea is that you have these interactions. So there's this preferred level within the human. And you might wonder why I'm spending so much time talking to you about this. Well, if you go to the MIT libraries and you were to type in, you could actually find this thing called natural object categorization, which, by the way, was my PhD thesis back in 1987. Please don't go and read it. It's not so great. But I was worried about this notion of perceptual organization and how you would organize your categories to make them good for perception. The one thing I lucked out on is that by the time I did my thesis, the AI tech reports were up to 1001. So I got tech report 1001 as the number. And that's great because it sounded like it was an important one at first.